This is the A to Z podcast. It's episode 7. I'm here with Alexander DePalo. Follow us on Twitter at
A to Z New York Sports and Instagram at
_Zanni_show.
Attaboy.
Let's
That's
go.
a boy. Way to do it.
That's a
We're
start.
starting hot. Let's go.
Man. Can only go down from there.
We started hot, but the Jets on prime time, we got to start there. How did they start?
They are pathetic. Everything about them is pathetic. Except their defense, I should say. Their defense is probably the best in the league. And they got to be getting frustrated at this point. It's getting to that point where, and I said this weeks ago, it's going to resemble what happened last year. Was you lost the fans, which is hard to do, but you're going to lose the locker room. And once you lose the locker room, it's over. And I don't quite understand what Saleh is doing, because he's literally hanging his career on Zach Wilson. Like, explain this to me. Am I crazy? Or is this guy just doesn't want to be a coach in the NFL? Because he's not going to get a head coaching job after the New York Jets. He's going to be back to a defensive coordinator. Explain this to me. What is going on?
I still think his hands are tied. And the interview, again, we mentioned last week with Michael Kay when he said, I plead the fifth, I think is very telling. I'm actually shocked that Joe Douglas didn't either come to his defense or come out publicly and say something. Because when your head coach says, I plead the fifth, instead of saying the candid answer, the couch prepared answer, like, he's our guy, we watch him in practice, he gives our team the best chance to win, to say, I plead the fifth is extremely telling to me. But I couldn't believe the stats they were saying in that game yesterday, that they had not scored a point on the first drive of the game all season. I thought it was a lie. I was like, no, they're making this up. There's no chance. And then they had gone almost 40 consecutive drives without scoring a touchdown. 11 quarters without an offensive touchdown. That's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, you would think it's fake, but it's not. It's not. we watch game in and game out. It's not fake, man. Even when we get lucky and move the football, once we get to the red zone, there's nothing left. It's the field shrinks in the red zone. We don't have a quarterback to get us in the end zone. And instead of just going to the backup quarterback and putting a guy in there that has experience and could probably move the football with this team, we are stuck with Zach Wilson. And I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, it's really at that point. I don't understand what they're waiting on. We lost 2 very winnable games, and now we play 2 teams in the division, the Bills and the Dolphins. And everybody's talking about Aaron Rodgers coming back potentially in December. But the fact of the matter is, if we don't win both games, I don't think he comes back. There's no point in him coming back. If we split, I don't really think he's going to come back either, because at that point, I think the playoffs are out of reach. I really believe that we have to win the next 2 games in a row. And it's tough to do. It's tough to go into Buffalo and beat Buffalo, even though we're in it right now. But it's a tough thing to do. And then to beat the Dolphins at home is no easy task.
No, but why? But why do you think they? Okay, let's just assume doomsday scenario. They're 4-5 right now, a game under. They lose the next 2 games, then puts them at 4-7. You think? I've said it for weeks now. I think the AFC sucks. You disagree. Multiple people I talked to said they disagree. We know what the Patriots are. We know what the Jets are. I've said the Bills are frauds for weeks, and they're showing it right now. And the Dolphins haven't beaten a good team. They crush awful teams, but when they play a good team, they get smacked in the face. We've talked about that. I just don't think – I think maybe the wild card is going to be – I'm not sure where the 9 wins, 10 wins.
Hey, but if we're at 4-7, Alex, we have to win out.
I know that's the problem. That is the problem. I mean, you're right. It puts them in an awful spot. But then they split those games, right? I'm gonna go with assuming the Bills lose this game, and they have to beat the Bills, because I don't know. I think the Bills suck. I really do. And I think the Dolphins will put up 17 points, right? Like, that's asking a lot for the defense to keep them under 17 points, right? And I don't see the Jets offense being able to do that. I really don't. But I don't think the wild card is completely out of reach just yet if they split. And if they split, I think the division is still there. It's there.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I don't know that's true. I'm actually going to the standings as we speak.
I just
They split, right? So they would be. Are we assuming the Dolphins win and we beat Buffalo and we lose the Dolphins? What are we assuming?
can you show me who the Dolphins have next week? Do you have it up?
I don't know who they have next week. Hang on.
Okay. But I
Uh,
just think, yeah, I just think the range of emotions
play
that
the Raiders. Dolphins play the Raiders. They're not losing to the Raiders. It's just not happening.
right? Okay, that's fair. I mean, you're right. They're not going to lose.
They're not.
That's a home game. I'm assuming because the Raiders have been home for two weeks in a row.
They are home against the Raiders.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that's a winnable game, and they're coming off their bye.
So they're going to be 7-3. So even if the Jets win and we're 5-5, nah, I don't know, man.
They got to be obviously they got to beat the Dolphins. Then the
Right.
bottom line is
they're going to lose, so they're going to be 4-6, and then they're going to win. They're going to be 5-6. Dolphins are going to be 7-4.
mm-hmm.
I don't think it. I don't think the division's in reach at that point. I really don't.
Yeah, you probably. I mean, you're right. I'm being optimistic, and it sucks because the range of emotions that Jet fans and you have experienced over the last 4 weeks have been phenomenal. From the Denver win, obviously that we called that what it was, to the Philly unbelievable win. That was a legit win against the best team in the NFC. I mean, maybe not the best team in the NFC.
One of the best teams in the NFL, really.
Right. And then to go to that, to what we saw against the Giants, which was awful. And then yesterday. I mean, it is crazy. But it's crazy to me that they're in every game until like the last drive. They were given a gift with 6 minutes left when Josh Jacobs fumbled that ball. They were given a gift. I mean, they put up points in that drive, the Raiders. They were in field goal range, right? They put up points, the game's over.
Yeah.
And again, they're given a gift. And it's because of that defense. But they just, like you said, that pick by Zach Wilson was inexcusable. I don't know what he was seeing. I don't know what the throw was. I don't know what it was.
Alex, you haven't. I mean, obviously you're seeing him, but I've been seeing him for 3 seasons now. And the guy, it's like I don't know how to describe it. Like he doesn't know how close or how far somebody is, where he always zips the ball in like 100 miles an hour. Like
His
the
depth
guy
perception,
literally, yeah, right. Like he needs glasses or something. Like the guy could literally be 5 yards away from him, and he's throwing like 100 miles an hour. You're like, what are you doing? You know. So I had, and we saw what happened. The guy's wide open. Wide open, and he just throws a little lollipop, and the linebacker runs over and picks it off. Like who throws like that? That'd be like us going outside having catch after not stretching, right? After not throwing a ball in 10 years and not stretching, that'd be us going outside just being like, right? Like I don't know. No, there's no professional quarterback that throws like that. So I want to go to the DMs because I got a DM about my tweets. DM. This is from just JUS Michael CE Wiz. Okay. Just Michael CE Wiz. Crazy as it sounds, I don't think this loss is on him, meaning Wilson. He honestly played pretty well. The interception he threw wasn't the best pass, but the defender came out of nowhere on that play. Just Michael CE Wiz, fuck you. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, brother. I don't know what you're watching or looking at, but that's absurd to say. Absolutely absurd. What game are you watching? The receiver's wide open. You put the ball on him. You can't just lollipop a ball in there in the NFL. Like, I don't understand how you're saying that the loss isn't on him at that point. That's absurd. Not to mention, we didn't get in the goddamn end zone.
Right, yeah.
Okay? I mean, you got to score a touchdown to win a football game.
Against let's just face it, the Raiders are a team that's going to be battling for the wild card as well. They're not winning the division, obviously. And then, I mean, the coaching changes help them, but they're not like a world beater defense. Let's just be honest. But then Wilson shows these flashes where the no-look throw, where he's looking to his right, no look to the left. And then, like you were tweeting the whole time or texting me, but like this guy actually can run when he was feeling pressure. He showed glimpses.
Yeah, it's about time he was running.
But I want to go ahead. I'm sorry. I want to talk about in general with regards to who we're throwing Wilson under the bus, and rightfully so here. But the penalties by the offense, I mean, you want to blame coaching. The
Terrible.
false starts, like, what are we? I mean, I hate when we see false starts and like this team is undisciplined and blah, 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 blah. Like, for real? You've been playing football probably since you were in 5th grade. The snap count has been a cadence. You know what it is. We're going on 2, we're going on 3, whatever it is. Like, listen in the huddle and listen to the snap count. I'm maybe I'm dumbing it down and making it much more simplistic than it actually is. But does the coach really have to coach that? Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I don't think you're wrong in saying that. I mean, I think that's common sense, like you said, but at the same point in time, I think that you do have to be a head coach in the league. So you need to make it a point to be practicing that and to be putting some accountability on these guys. I think there's a pretty good reason why we're having these penalties every game, and it needs to be nipped in the bud. Like you can't just carry on doing that. Just be like, oh, we're this team that gets penalized, 12 times a game. We're not we're not set up for that. We
Yeah.
can't afford that. We're giving out free yards that's going to come back and haunt us. We're not the Kansas City Chiefs. If we're starting 1st and 20, we're more likely than not punting. Like it is what it is, man. So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like they should know the snap count and there shouldn't be false starts and stuff of that nature. Like it's the stupid penalties. It's not the penalties. Like there's such good things as good penalties. You get beat on a play or whatever, you drag the guy down instead of being a touchdown, it's 10 yards, 15 yards, where the hell you drag them down, like good penalties like that. But we just constantly shoot ourselves in the foot and it's not helping our offense. And our offense is pretty anemic to begin with. So it's something that needs to change. I don't know where the change is, but I am at the point where the coaching staff is not doing any favors for us. And you know how I feel about Saleh. Hackett's not going anywhere because Rodgers is here next year, and the whole reason he's here is because of Rodgers. I really truly feel like Saleh's on really thin ice here. I don't understand how a coach just like put his career on the line by backing up Zach Wilson. As much as 5 hours ago, he had said that they're not looking at a quarterback change.
No, I'm sorry, but a part of me, thin ice to me, when any team loses their starting quarterback, and Minnesota aside, because that story is phenomenal. You lose your starting quarterback. Usually the season is completely derailed, right? It's the rare case that it's not. And Joe Douglas knew this going in, that you signed Rodgers, your entire hopes of the season were pinned on him, and he did nothing to secure a better backup quarterback. So that's on him. He must feel that right now because he knows if he has a competent quarterback, his team is possibly 2-3 games over 500 instead of a game under 500 right now. So while you might think he's on thin ice, he was brought in, Saleh, to be a head coach, yes, but he's a defensive-minded head coach. He's done a phenomenal job with that defense. There's no doubt about that. Now this head coach has lost his starting quarterback, and they're the second worst offense in the league. The first worst offense the worst offense in the league, guess what, is the Giants, who lost their starting quarterback and their backup quarterback. Like, that's what we're talking about here. So I really don't think he's on thin ice, personally. I really don't. Because a coach on thin ice doesn't say what he said 2 weeks ago and said, I plead the fifth about the starting quarterback. That's number one. If he was on thin ice, boom, the ice would have broke with that comment right there. And then number two, he was brought in to be the defensive guy that he has showing and to make this offense serviceable. It's hard to evaluate his offense because he doesn't have that starting quarterback.
Right.
So I just don't agree that he's on thin ice.
You have a quarterback on the bench that is serviceable, and he refuses to put him in there. And at some point in time, like I said, you're going to lose your locker room. And if you lose the locker room, your career as a head coach is over.
That's true.
There's no coming back from that. And he's a player's coach. Everybody loves him and everything, right? Everybody loves him until that point comes where you're out there stranded on the field as a defender for 45 minutes a game and you're not getting any help and your offense isn't scoring points. And at that point, you're public enemy number one at that point. He's got to figure that out, man. He's got a tough decision to make, but I just don't understand how you can honestly sit there and say that Simeon doesn't deserve a shot over Zach Wilson.
I agree. He does. That definitely deserves a shot. But Wilson became the first QB to throw for 250 plus yards in back-to-back weeks but to have his team fail to score a touchdown, an offensive touchdown in either game, like that's hard to do, right? Like,
Yard.
but the crazy thing is, you predicted it. I was poo-pooing it the whole time. Rodgers told NBC that he plans for a mid-December comeback, but you said they lose the next 2 games, stay at home, Rodgers. That's what you're saying.
I don't think there's a point of coming back at that point. I really don't. I mean, why risk it? Like unless you're 100% healthy, and even if that's the case, if we don't have a realistic shot at the playoffs, I don't think you need to come back and rush it, because 2 weeks from now we'll have to get through at least 3 games without him, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
there's potential the Jets drop 3 straight, or 3 more straight from here on out.
I mean, the next 3 games at Bills, home for the Dolphins, home for the Falcons, and then home for the Texans.
You should beat the Falcons, my lord. And the Texans.
And the Texans are rolling. The Texans are rolling out of nowhere.
They're fun to watch, dude. They are. They really are. They're a lot of fun to watch, but God forbid we drafted a quarterback like that,
But I do want to talk about that last play, because you were beside yourself, and you weren't willing to say, like, hey, that was a pretty nice play by Wilson to escape, roll to his left, get that throw off, and he put it in the air in a place for his team to make a play, but Ty Conklin turned it to a DB and just swatted the ball right out of Garrett Wilson's hands. I mean, that was unbelievable.
It was a great play for him to, avoid a rush. But I felt like you give him a little too much credit that he it's a Hail Mary. He doesn't have to read a defense or anything. So he kind of excels in that. He's just like, all right, I just have to like maneuver and throw the ball, 50 yards in the air. He's not reading a defense. So it was very, again, not easy for him, but it was easier than him actually trying to figure out where safeties are going to be.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we could have came down with that.
What's that?
I do feel like we could have came down with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the ball was there. The ball was there. And a part of me did think on that last drive, or I should say the second to last drive before the Hail Mary, that he was gonna, because when the chips are down, and like we've said, it is inconsistent play. When the chips are down and they need him to make a play, the guy comes up and makes a play. But it's the inability to make a play when the game is tied or it's the second quarter. It's all of a sudden, hey, I mean, I texted it to you, like 53 seconds left. Like, this is Wilson's time. It's bizarre. I don't understand it. I don't know if it's because he knows he doesn't think, I got to make a read, I got to make a play.
That's a big part of it. I really do. I think that's a big part of it. It's you have to make a play. So it's almost like in a weird way the pressure is off him, right? Because if he makes a mistake, it's like, well, we had to make something happen there. Is what it is. But I do feel like that's when he plays his better football, because he really isn't overthinking. When he doesn't overthink, though, comes sometimes where he just makes the bonehead play. Right. And that, for me, the boneheaded play is like lobbing the ball the way he lobbed the ball on that drive. I just don't understand. Like, that was we had a guy, very easy completion. Every pro level quarterback makes that play. He just like legitimately lobbed the ball in. Like, what did you think was going to happen? I'm just confused. Like, you can't throw a football like that on the playing field and think something bad isn't going to happen. Like, it's just a very weird thing to do. But I don't know, man. I just don't think he's a pro quarterback. And I think that the Jets have to figure something else out. I mean, it's very clear.
But it wasn't as bad as Mac Jones. You see the interception that he threw?
I did. And that's actually very fair. I mean, he threw some horrendous interceptions. I mean, he legitimately cost his team. And say what you want. Like, I know we're all making fun of the Patriots and everything, and they're obviously not a good football team right now, but they're really not a bad football team either. Like, they will go out there and they will compete week in and week out, and they'll pretty much be in every single game until they're not. Like, it's a different style of play that they play. And even like Belichick, like I give him all the credit in the world. He's one of the greatest coaches of all time, obviously. Like, you see them making ridiculous plays, and he's just kind of like, he doesn't even have an answer. He's just kind of like almost like smirking, like putting his head down. Like, what do you want him to do?
That was the first time I saw that from him. When he threw that pick, it was off his back foot, like God knows who he is. And when he threw the pick, like they showed Belichick right away, and it was a smirk.
Yeah,
Like, Jesus, this is what I'm working with here. I mean, there's no doubt that they're drafting. Like, he's done with the Patriots, and his rookie year was an anomaly. Like, this is who he is, right?
yeah, yeah. No, I don't think he's very good. Yeah, I don't think he's very good, and
Yeah,
he's not cut out. He's not cut out to be there.
yeah.
There's a
And
lot of
then
quarterbacks playing in the league right now that aren't very good, buddy. So
it's fair.
it just is what.
Looking at the next 4 games, I already said it though. Next game for the Jets, finally not a prime time game, so that's big for you. But
Yeah.
they're at the Bills, and right now the the line is Jets +7 over under 40.5.
Um, I would take the Jets.
Jets to cover or Jets to
Yeah,
win?
to cover. I'd take the Jets to cover. 40.5.
Yes.
I just have no faith in our offense, man. You know?
You got to take the under. There's
Yeah.
like for 2 reasons. I do not trust the Jets offense, and I said it earlier. The Bills are the most overrated team right now, and the Jets defense is phenomenal. They're going to turn them over at least twice. At least twice. I
Yeah.
mean, this game alone, Denver has turned them over twice. Like, it's just, I know you're a Josh Allen defender. I'm just not. I'm just not. He thinks he can make every throw. And you say that he shoulders the load, but he thinks he can put it in the tightest window, and he's been burned more times. The guy is responsible for a ton of touchdowns. When you look, they showed the stat earlier, where since whatever year, it's the most touchdowns passing and running, but he also has the most interceptions. Like, it's hard to win like that. It's
Yeah.
hard to win with that margin of error where you're literally this close to either scoring a touchdown or turning the ball over. It's very, very hard to win like that.
I will take Josh Allen on my team, and so would you.
Wait. That's not the bar we're going with, okay? Because that bar is on the ground. Are we saying Josh Allen or Alex DePalo? Guess what? I'm taking Josh Allen too, because that's what we're working with, okay?
At
But
least they might let Alex DePalo throw the football, though. That's the crazy part. Like, call me crazy, but if you make it to the NFL, aren't you allowed to throw the football?
oh
Like,
my
what
God.
is going on, man?
Oh, it is wild. And then sorry, continuing on, we have home for the Dolphins, home for the Falcons, and then I'm sorry. Yes, home for the Dolphins, home for the Falcons, and home for the Texans. I had that right. 3 straight home games. Wow. Maybe I wrote that down wrong. But anyway, um, those next 4 games you can't even say 2-2 because 2-2 that puts them at a game under still, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
gotta go minimum 3-1. The problem is the problem is that Texans game because they are riding high right now.
Yeah. The thing I'll say about the Texans game is the Jets defense is really good. And you would think they're going to be throwing some schemes out there that the rookie might not have seen yet. So I think that they should be able to confuse
True.
him that game, which ideally will keep the game close because Lord knows we're not gonna, we're not gonna light up the scoreboard in any way, shape, or form.
By the way, your Josh Allen just
I just
literally dropped the ball on a handoff.
I saw it.
Okay, so that's 3 turnovers in this game.
Yeah, you know what? 3 turnovers in the game from him, and they're still tied up. Like it's a different style of
They're
football.
playing Denver,
I
Zen.
get it, man. I mean, Denver beat KC, right?
Fine.
Any given Sunday.
Fine.
No, Denver hasn't played bad football
They
in
haven't.
a while. In
This
quite a
is
while.
since they let up 70 points against the Dolphins. It's like
Right,
Sean Payton
right.
was like, okay, I can't be mocking the other coach when we're doing this.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, no, that's on Allen there. Like, I don't know.
Look at him. He's looking at the replay like, oh yeah, I just dropped it. Like what? Like what is he doing?
I don't know.
But anyway, yes, would I take Josh Allen over what I'm working with? Because the Giants went into Dallas and they did exactly what we thought they would do. They got trounced. I don't know what I was thinking like, oh, maybe they'll cover this game. It was over, and it was over. I think it was the end of the first quarter or the beginning of the second quarter. when Giants got a turnover, they got it inside their 20. It was no, inside the 15, I think it was. It was like 4th and 1.5. And rightfully so. Daboll was like, I'm not kicking a field goal. We're never getting this close again. And they got stuffed. Dallas went right down, score that made it 21-0 at that point in time, and that was the game. That was the chance. They did not come close to covering, but like we said, the over crushed it. They crushed the over.
I listen. I literally said the Cowboys are going to hit the over themselves.
And they did. And they did. It was a bad game. I mean, the silver lining of this whole thing is the Giants are now have the 2nd overall pick. And my boy Drake May from UNC, come on down, baby. Come on down.
I like it. I like that pick a lot. They're not going to do that, but I do like that pick a lot.
I don't think they're going to do it. But listen, I don't follow college football. I gotta read up on this. But I still think they have zero talent on the outside. They need a weapon. If this guy Marvin Harrison Jr. is there,
good man, he's so good,
right?
So good.
You take him, no?
No, honestly, if I'm them, I'm taking the quarterback because they have no quarterback. Like, are you really going to sit here and we're going to have this, this talk of like Danny Dimes is the future of the Giants? Like, are we saying that? Is that what's happening right now?
But Danny Dimes is the future, but he's next year. He's the quarterback next year.
Okay, so listen, we're in a quarterback-driven league. You can only win the Super Bowl with, generally speaking, a real quarterback, right? Like, I think there's been maybe one Super Bowl that was won without a real quarterback. So it's not going to be one with Danny Dimes, is what I'm telling you. You can grab Marvin Harrison Jr. and yeah, he's going to be a hell of a receiver. But if you don't have somebody throwing you the football, what good is a receiver?
Yep. You're not wrong about that.
You can throw Calvin Johnson in his prime, Julio Jones in his prime, and Randy Moss in his prime on the Jets right now. We're still not scoring points. And we're not scoring points because we have a quarterback that can't score points. He can't put the ball where the ball needs to go. That's the guy's honest truth. So it's like no matter who you have as receiver, it's not going to matter if the guy throwing the rock ain't good.
My concern about the Giants right now is so many things, but they have a minus 148 point differential in the season. That's worse by 51 points to the next nearest team. It's not that they're losing because we're used to that.
Their point differential with the Cowboys alone is like probably 85.
Well, let's just do it. They lost 40-0 and 49-0. It's 89-17. That's what it is, right?
89-17. Yes, correct.
I mean, that's what we're working with. I mean,
72-point differential just off the Cowboys.
Just off the Cowboys.
Absurd.
Oh my God. But that's what it's not that they're losing because they have been losing other than those 2 miraculous Super Bowl years, which is unbelievable still as I sit here today. But it's the non-competitiveness. It's the we're entering Joe Judge type level of non-competitiveness where the game is over, not in doubt, and we're in the first quarter. Like that's what we're talking about here, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I was saying, okay, silver lining now is the mock draft, putting them at 2. But I was saying I was high on this defense, way too high on this defense. I was going to the mattresses for this defense, but their opponents just lulled me into the sense they were better. The Commanders, the Bills, and the Jets, and then they play a real team in the Dallas Cowboys, and they get absolutely trounced. That's what we're talking about. They were running offensive 7-on-7 scale drills out there. That's what it was. That's what it was. It was insane. It was making Dak Prescott. He's good. Don't get me wrong, but surefire Hall of Famer. But the receivers are running wide open. CeeDee Lamb. It was a mockery out there. It was an absolute mockery out there.
I love CeeDee Lamb. I'm a huge fan of his. I've been a huge fan of his for a few years now. It's good to see him finally get his due. Like I feel like people are finally like, wow, this guy's really good. And it's like, yeah, dude, he's been really good for a long time.
I know.
Point of the offense. And I think Dak Prescott just woke up and was like, so I can just throw the ball up and he's going to run and get it. It's like, yeah, Dak, you had that the whole time, man. Like,
Yeah. But the scary part about it, you mentioned Salah and him possibly being on thin ice. I don't think this because he's coming off a Coach of the Year season. But what's happening on the Giants sideline right now is troubling. It's absolutely troubling. with Sterling Shepard and Slayton going at each other. What they're yelling at each other for, the two receivers, I have no idea. But you can't have that kind of dissension in the sidelines.
Sure. So, okay. So I agree with you, right? What I'll say is the expectations are far, far different, right? The Giants were never coming into this year to win more than 6 games. I knew that. Everybody else knew that. You apparently didn't know that, but everybody else, right? They were going to win 6 games max. That was what the Giants were going to do. They have a terrible, terrible team. Okay. There's nobody fixing that team. It's just not happening. So the Jets came in, great offseason, bringing Aaron Rodgers, one of the best defenses in the league. We got offensive weapons with Brees Hall. We got, Garrett Wilson. We now have Aaron Rodgers throwing the rock. Like everything's going right for the Jets. And then he gets hurt. And that obviously derailed everything. But the expectations were Super Bowl or bust. Just very different as to why one coach might be, potentially fired or on thin ice and the other coach isn't. The other coach, they're rebuilding, man. Everybody knows that. There's nobody, the fans, are you really getting mad at the Giants losing? Like, yeah, maybe
you
want to be more competitive. You don't want to
competitive
now, right?
That's
you want
the problem.
to watch the football game on Sunday and be like, okay, this was, we almost had that one.
Right.
Lose, whatever the score was, 49-17, whatever the hell it was. But outside of that, man, like I think that's why he's not on thin ice. Whereas I beg to differ about Saleh. I think that, like I said, he's losing the fans right now. I mean, he's definitely lost my respect. And if he's losing the fans' respect, I think the locker room's not far behind. And how many more stinkers could we watch from Zach Wilson before something is, done here? It just doesn't make sense.
But I guess you're right. You're definitely right. But from a head coach standpoint and a leadership standpoint on the team, when you have the team again non-competitive and you have that happening on the sideline, I don't know. It stinks from the head down, and I don't know if the coach is not saying the right things pregame or during the week or getting in the right space mentally. But it unraveled, and it unraveled quick, and the leaders are not stepping up to me and like, yo, this isn't good enough. This is unacceptable. We lose with pride, we lose together, and that's just not happening.
That's all fair. That is all fair. And again, I agree with you completely. Another terrible throw. Oh my Lord. I agree with you completely. It's just, I feel like sometimes when the expectation isn't there to win, sometimes you just don't care enough. And I think that's where the Giants are. I think they all know like the season is a bust.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter if we win or lose, and I think that's unfortunately what the thought process is right now.
But I mean, listen, I'm always the glass half full guy, obviously, but I just do not think that professional athletes go into a game ever thinking they're going to lose. They do not have that mentality. Otherwise they would not be where they are, right? So I just don't think that while the fans and the pundits can be realistic about what's going on, going into the season, hey, like the best they're going to do is 3 wins. I just don't think the locker room has that mentality, but maybe I'm wrong.
At the beginning of the season, I agree with you. I mean, everybody wants to believe in their team at the beginning of the season, but once you start losing, they very much will just not have that.
Collect their paycheck.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm talking about with the Jets, man. Like you go out there and you compete as a defense week in and week out, and you're holding teams to 12 points essentially, and you can't win a football game because the offense isn't putting up more than 12 points. It's sad, and at some point in time, you're going to mail it in, and you never want to. Every team has a spirit, right? Every player has a spirit and has a will. See it in every sport. You just grind until you break their will, and that's how people lose, and that's how people win. And you have winners and you have losers, and some people will give up a little bit easier than the next person, but everybody has their breaking point, man. So it's tough to go out there and just watch the Jets offense stink up the field and continue to say, hey, I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do my best no matter that we're not winning football games. And I think that's where the Giants are in right now. It's hard to care when there's just nobody else seeming to care.
Speaking of breaking point, we'll get to the Islanders in a minute, but the next 4 games for the Giants at the Commanders, what do you think the line is on that bad boy?
my God. It's at the Commanders, so Commanders minus 5.5 and over under 38.
Over under is 37,
Okay,
but
all right.
the Giants are getting 10.
Wow, jeez. Wow, they're bad.
Okay, the story about Tommy DeVito, the guy is quintessential New Jersey. Did you see the picture of his family?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He's wearing the Guido necklace with the TD. I was like, this guy is ridiculous. His dad owns a plumbing business in town. I mean, it's ridiculous. He lives at home, for God's sakes, eating his chicken
I
cutlets.
love it,
I was
man. Hell
thinking of
yeah.
you growing up,
Hell
right?
yeah, absolutely. I
I
wish I
mean,
still was home.
I but I was just thinking like it's an awesome story. But then the ball was snapped, the whistle blew, and it was like, all right, back to reality. There's the reason why this guy was undrafted. He wasn't. Listen, when the starters were pulled and he was going against the second stringers in defense, like he made completions, he mowed the ball, but that's what it is. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're at the Commanders again. I I said in my 7-win prediction that they would take both against the Commanders, so I am giving them this game. Then they are home against the Patriots. I'm giving them that game. And then Packers and Saints. You know what? I'm calling a 4-game winning streak right now.
Oh man. Oh man. Wow.
Could you imagine just absolutely kibosh their tank on like a 3-game heater? I'm like, what is this team doing?
So what did I have them winning? 3 games?
Yeah, I think you said max 5.
All right.
I
And
mean,
they're
they're at 3 games now, so you're giving them that would be one win for the rest of the season, which is possible.
I honestly don't think they're gonna win again. I really don't. I don't see how it's gonna happen. They're not gonna beat the Commanders. They're not gonna beat the Patriots. And then who's the game after that?
Packers and the Saints.
They're playing 4 not very good teams, and
Terrible teams.
they're probably gonna get smashed out of 2 of them and maybe play a tight contest against who are they going to play tight contests against? I don't know. Maybe the Saints because offensively they're a struggling team.
The Patriots? You don't think they could hold the Patriots down? Wow. Okay. Okay.
No, I don't. The Patriots are again. They're not as bad as people think. I'm not saying they're a good football team because they're not, but I don't think they're a terrible football team either. So I think they'll go out there and they'll expose the Giants and do pretty much what the Commanders do. Um, the Packers aren't going to run over anybody, and really neither are the Saints. But I can see those being like I don't even want to call them games. I just don't see the Giants winning again.
No, I
I
mean,
think they'll have the number 1 pick at the end of the year. I really do.
be wild, but it would be apropos for the season. But disappointing, we were talking about. A to Z was in the house for the Islanders against the Capitals at UBS. And I don't know why I go into every single one of those games just optimistic. It's military appreciation night. You got people propelling from the ceiling. The crowd was solid. I don't want to say good, but solid on a Saturday night to open up.
Yeah.
And it's just a stinker. I mean, the Capitals are playing better. I get that, but just guys, the second goal was a backbreaker with regards to the guy being wide open in front. Ovi's getting his Ovi, or maybe that was the third goal actually, but Ovi's getting his patented slap shot off. That was brutal, and then he got the open netter. So he got his goals against the Islanders, but it wasn't the loss is the loss. It was the comments after the game. Did you get a chance to hear what
I
Casey?
did. I did get a chance to hear that, and I was so fired up after hearing that. I was so annoyed over what he said to me. To me, I'm taking it personally, but like it really, I felt like because I'm one of those guys.
You are one of those
Oh,
guys.
let's go, man! Like I think there's a way to speak, right? You want to defend your coach.
Wait, hold on. So let me interrupt you. I just want to put it in, frame it for you. So for those who didn't hear or see, at the end of the game previous was very loud, fire Lou, fire Lou. And then the game on Saturday night, very obvious from the crowd, were fire Lane, the Islanders head coach. After the game, Newsday reporter Andrew Gross asked Casey about what he thought, and he came back was pretty much saying that's garbage from the fans, and that if you're going to be like that, stay home. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No. So I just feel like again, you want to defend your coach, you want to defend your team. I get that, man, but there's a way to do that you're not trash talking the fans. And as a fan, I can tell you that we sat in traffic for almost 2 hours to get to the stadium. Then you have to park and pay $40 to park a mile away from the stadium. Then you have to wait for a shuttle bus in the freezing cold, get on the shuttle bus, drive over to the stadium, go pay the ridiculous prices for the seats, the ridiculous prices for the food. You're allowed a voice, okay? And if you want to make your voice be heard like that, and we're all frustrated, so we're allowed to go off and do some stupid things, especially when you get smoked by the Capitals. I just thought it was in really poor taste to start talking down to the fans. He could have easily had his coaches back and his teammates back by saying something much more politically correct than talking about the fans and telling them to stay home. Shame on him. That was a terrible take.
So I 100% agree with you. As the Islanders go down 2-1 in the third, solid job on the power play. I agree with you that the fans pay their salaries. They can, within the confines of the law, can say and do virtually whatever they want to say. I don't think the fire lane at this point is justified. I really don't. You could totally disagree, and I totally understand that. I think that the message by Casey was understandable. Again, came frustrated. He is one of the most tenured guys on the team. He shouldn't have said what he said. I think when he comes back to the Coliseum to UBS, it's going to be a rude welcoming. But to me, it was him almost jumping to the defense of his coach. If one of his boys or teammate or something was getting ridiculed, mocked, beat up, like that was him getting puffed up and be like, yo, that's our guy. Don't do that. But again, it was how he said that message. So he should never have came out after the fans in the way he did. But I do think him standing up for his coach, being like, he's our guy, his message is still getting through. It's up to the players. I think that is nice to see in a way.
No, I agree with it. I wouldn't expect you to not stand up for your coach or your teammates. There's a better way to put it. And this question wasn't about whether us saying fire him or not was a thing to say. That's neither here nor there. It's not here nor there.
True.
We were just frustrated. I'll speak for myself. I was frustrated with the game, with the way the game was going. It was pathetic. Everything about the way we played was we just didn't show up. So, you're gonna shout some stupid things sometimes, and it's the fans' right to do that. And as a professional athlete, you just got to get out there and give it a better effort the next time out, because that was just a really sad thing to do.
Yep. And in all honesty, the reason why I say the fire lane is unjustified right now, because listen, he's going into his third year now. Last year he got that team to the playoffs when Barzal went down for essentially 2 months, and they went on a tear to get the team in the playoffs. They competed against Carolina, and because they're a garbage overtime team, they couldn't win that series, but they were in the series, had a chance to win it. That to me has built up some equity, but this season he's having a hard time finding correct line combinations. And Twitter is not ignoring the elephant in the room. That elephant in the room is Anders Lee. He is crushing every line that he's on. He's not a top 6 player anymore. Quite frankly, he's a 4th line player. He's just not hands-wise, feet-wise, the same guy he was 4 or 5 years ago. And every line that he's on, he speed-wise brings them down terribly. And he can't find a location for him, because when you properly slot him in the 4th line, what I think, and rotate out a Martin, a Clutterbuck, because they are not everyday players anymore, I do think the team will be much more competitive and get to that point where they could start actually going on a winning streak. And until that happens, it's just not there for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's frustrating. Tonight they're at Edmonton. Edmonton is one of the worst teams in the league.
They're playing terrible. Edmonton's a lot better than they're playing right now, so let's not pretend like that. But
they are way better than they are playing. But the bottom line is they just fired their head coach. and they just let up another goal. So it's 3-1 with 10 minutes left. So this game is over.
So
This
for me,
was
it's the defense, Al. And I know we were speaking about this, but it's the defense. Yeah, I feel like they're just leaving their goaltender out to dry. They're giving up way too many shots, which is kind of always a thing that we've done over the past 2 years. Is we give up a lot of shots, but we put bodies in front of the shots, which is what we were doing. And I mean, the offense it's been a struggle year in and year out for a
yep.
while now. So that's nothing new. But for me, it's the defense just not being there. Like we're giving up way too many goals being scored. And if that's the way it's gonna be, then we don't have a team, like
Yeah, yeah.
that's not
And
gonna
this and they have been awful in the third period. And this is another third period game.
they have been awful in the third period.
And under Trotz, that was their bread and butter. I don't
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
I really don't understand it. They're 1-1 going into the game right now, and they let up 2 goals in the matter of 10 minutes. Like it's crazy to me. I just don't understand how the same personnel defensively sucks under one coach. Go talk about coaching.
Right.
Sucks under one coach, and it was their bread and butter under another. Third periods, back to backs, phenomenal under one coach, awful. The same players. Like I don't know. I just don't understand how that changes. Anyway, they're going to lose this game. Their next game is at Vancouver, who's one of the best teams in the league. They have multiple players in their top 10 in scoring in the league. They're losing that game. Again, that might be another 4-1 lead loss. Then at Carolina and at Calgary, both teams that have come out bad. Seattle beating the Avalanche right now. But honestly, if they go 0-4 on this road trip, that'll put them at 0-8 over their last 8. Then those fire lane chants are going to get louder and louder, and Lou's going to have a hard time ignoring it, right?
Right.
Like though when you have 8 and double-digit losing streaks, coaches don't survive that. I don't care who you are, and great coaches and great teams don't have losing streaks like that. And as Islander fans, we've seen that, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
If they don't go 2-2 on this road trip, like I said, the season's going to spiral if it's not spiraling already, and heads are going to roll. Then on the flip side, the Rangers are a freaking juggernaut.
Other side of town.
Oh my God. Listen, it's hard not to watch them and be in awe, right?
Yeah.
Like they are decimated with injuries. Their top players are down, and is this embarrassing? That's a second extra point that Denver just boondoggled.
No.
Oh, they stink. Anyway, the injuries don't matter. Their backup goalie, their third string goalie go in there and win games. They just keep rolling. The team is deep. They're talented. They're well coached, and it's actually a really pleasure to watch. It really is. They come in waves. And what their bugaboo has been, in my opinion, over the last 3-4 years, and especially under Gallant, is that they've relied on their goaltender. They relied on the power play, and they stunk 5-on-5. And it's completely different now with Laviolette. They are a very good 5-on-5 team, and they chip in on the power play, and Shesterkin's the best goalie in the league.
He's a hell of a goaltender, but Laviolette has been year in and year out, every time that guy coaches, has been one of the best coaches in hockey. And for whatever strange reason, it's almost like people don't remember that, or they like forget that. It's when the Rangers signed him. Danny's a huge Ranger fan.
Mm-hmm.
Texted me. He's like, I don't know about this signing. And I was like, what don't you know about? Like you guys are literally probably the fair. I mean, I still think the Devils are a little bit of a better team. I think it's going to be, and I've said this multiple times, I think it's going to be a hell of a 7-game series when it goes, in the semifinals. But I was like, I don't understand what you don't like about this. Like, he's legitimately one of the best coaches in the league. Like, I don't know why he gets this rap of where like he's not as good as people think. I don't know. Apparently he's not like a player's coach. Like sometimes he rubs guys the wrong way. He wins. Who cares? Like, he wins. Like,
So no doubt,
Belichick's
what
not
you just said.
Player's coach in any way,
He's
shape,
not a
or
player's
form.
coach, and he runs his course. Like it's almost, if when you look at his coaching career, it's 3 years, max 4 years, and he's done, because either his message gets stale or he rubs guys the wrong way. It's done. Which is ironic because, like you just said, he is a winner. And it gets to that point, maybe year 2, year 3, where he's rubbing guys the wrong way and they're not winning at the clip that they were, and it's like, all right, we're done with this type of thing, and it goes sideways a little bit,
Sure. I guess. Yes,
But all coaches have shelf life. All of them do. I'm sorry, they do. But the reason why some coaches don't is because either they have 3 or 4 guys that is their core and everybody else changes around them, or everybody changes and their message doesn't get stale because it's new personnel every single time. I mean, that's my opinion. I
don't agree
listen.
to the shelf life thing. I really don't.
You don't.
No, I don't. I don't. Belichick's been there forever. Mike Tomlin will be there till he dies. Like there's so many great coaches that adapt, and that's why they're great coaches. You're gonna, I'll speak about myself. Like when I get a handful of people, every person I coach is gonna be different than the person before. Like I might be able to yell at you and you'll respond to that, right? But if I yell at Joe over here, he's gonna shut down. So now I have to realize I can't yell at Joe. Joe might need me to put my arm around him and pat him on the back and, and really like do things that way. Like everybody needs to be coached differently. And being a great coach, you have to learn how to coach different people. You can't just say, this is the way I coach. That's it. This is because, yeah, of course, your shtick's going to run up and people are going to be annoyed or you're going to run people the wrong way. But and I'm not saying like the example I just said of Belichick, obviously that's not the case. He runs shit the way he wants to run shit and he doesn't care what you think about him. But Mike Tomlin, I've been saying this for a long time now. I think Mike Tomlin is the best coach in football. And you never hear a bad word about that guy. He's a player's coach, but they know not to like mess with him. And you mess with him, you get cut. You're Le'Veon Bell, bye-bye. You're Antonio Brown, bye-bye.
Yep.
Like he's that type of guy, man, that run, baby, run.
Is that Hamlin?
No, that was Cook.
Oh, I'm an idiot. I was like, what? I'll push back on the shelf life. You have Belichick. I mean, obviously the guy had a run, but look at him now. Look at him now. Like the team is struggling. And
the
his shtick is old. Like no one cares about his shtick anymore because they stink. They lose.
Yeah.
Tomlin
fair.
has the respect of the media, the respect of his players because he's done it with mediocrity. And now we see what Belichick is without Tom Brady. Like it wasn't the other way around where he was Tom Brady was on Belichick's shoulders. It was obviously the other way around at this point in time. He's had plenty of time. Brady left. He won without him. That's what it was. He was being propped up by Brady. Look at his record on the Browns. Look at his record before Brady. Look at his record after Brady. The proof is in the pudding there. So I still think it has a shelf life. Tomlin is the anomaly.
Listen, we can get into this conversation. It was a lot more than Tom Brady over the years in New England. Like a lot more than just Tom Brady.
Yes,
the defense. Love Tom Brady, but come on, man. The defense was Tom Brady's first, would you say 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Nothing special, Alex.
I know.
He's a game manager. He was a system quarterback. It was like, hey, Tom, we really don't want you to throw the football. Just hand the ball off, hand the ball off, rely on the defense, right? And he won a couple championships that way. And then all of a sudden they started giving him people. And he wound up Randy Moss and Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski, Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. Let's not act like this guy never had somebody to throw to, right? Like, so you can't sit here and say Tom Brady propped up, one of the winningest coaches of all time. It very much, he's a very damn good coach, and he created a culture and a system. And when Brady went down for the year and they brought in the guy who sucks,
Castle,
or right, I'm sorry, right?
No,
Matt Castle.
Matt Castle.
They wound up going what? They were 11-5.
Yep. And then Castle somehow signed a contract with the Chiefs, I think it was, right?
Chiefs, with the Chiefs, right? But that's my point. It was a system thing, right?
Yeah, it was.
Brady went down. Jimmy Garoppolo came in. He won like 7 straight games or whatever. Like it was a system. And I'm not taking anything away from Tom Brady. Tom Brady's one of the greatest of all time. We all know that. I'm just simply saying like the system he had set up was pretty freaking phenomenal and it was pretty special. And I don't think it was really until Kraft kind of got in the way a little bit. And I think Belichick was trying to prepare for life after Brady. And I think Brady was like, no, I'm not having this. And he told Kraft, and Kraft was like, hey, man, you got to get rid of, and I'm not saying Jimmy G is good in any way, shape, or form, but he had a little bit of that swagger and a little bit of that like Tom Brady approach.
Yep.
And I think once that happened, I think Belichick kind of was like, wow, I don't have as much power, as much pull as I thought I did, because there was definitely a power struggle there in Brady's last year in New England.
Yep. All right. I think I'm good, man. What do you got planned for this weekend? Anything good?
Nothing good. No, actually
Nothing good.
going to the city, going to see Chris Tucker. Comedy.
Really?
Yeah, man. He's torn. We were supposed to see him. Man, this is like 2020. I want to say we were supposed to see him. I was so jacked up to see him, and then COVID hit, and obviously he canceled, and then he didn't come back on, and I was worried he was never going to come back on. And we got word he's going to be at the Beacon on Saturday, so we will be there front row. Absolutely love me some Chris Tucker.
I know. You know me. I love
What you
Chris
eat,
Tucker too.
Mushu?
One of my favorite movies of all time. I love it.
I love that guy.
Who do you think you are, Kelsey Clinton? Kelsey. Every time I watch the edits on that, yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Chelsea Carter, Chelsea Clinton.
What's the line again?
What's the line again? Well, enjoy it. This was a pleasure always, and I'll see you next week. Love you.
I love it too.